Well, thank you for coming in, Catherine. I'd like to take you back to 1967 and one of your training sessions very early on when you and your coach Arnie were completing 26.2 miles in training. You went further than that. You went over 30, I think. And Arnie the next day said women had potential in endurance sport for great stamina. Did you really know what he was talking about?
First of all, Annette, I'm so happy to be here, and I'm delighted to share this interview with you because you yourself are a terrific athlete and have a great understanding of what we're talking about here today. And everybody listening, I'm sure, will too. But that Arnie was so wonderful. You know, he really wasn't a coach. He was the university mailman, and he became my coach up at Syracuse University. And when we did this long run, it was for me to prove to him that I could actually run the full 26 miles or 42.2 kilometers of a marathon. And when we finished it, I felt too good, and I said, let's run another 5 miles. And he said, well, you can do that. And when we finished that workout, he actually passed out. And it was the next day he said, like he had discovered this. Women have hidden potential in endurance and stamina. And what he had been afraid of were all the old myths of women's weakness, passivity, of fragility, of these old myths that you get big legs and never have children if you became an athlete. And he was terrified, you know, of us falling off a flat earth, if you will. And I felt every day like I was Magellan, you know, that I was discovering new territory. And so I already knew that the longer we went, the better I felt as a woman, and I had this ability and endurance. But it was a eureka moment for both of us. It really was, to realize that the longer the distance, the better women could go. And in fact, now that's being borne out all over the world. Women in triathlons, endurance races, ultra events, and grand traverses. The sky's the limit for women right now.
And yet, 1967, when you actually got to Boston and you took part in that memorable race, it caused such a furore when Jock Semple attacked you and tried to pull you out, and yet that's the thing that everybody remembers you for?
I'd really rather people remember me for championing women into distance running and getting the women's marathon into the Olympic Games. But hey, let's just go back to 67, and you know, that was my reward. I had showed Arnie that I could run in the distance in practice. He took me to Boston. I filled out the entry form. Of course, I filled out KV Switzer, which is the way I signed my name. The officials thought I was a guy. In those days, the marathon was a men's only event, apparently. No rules were written about this. So 2 miles into the race, when I was running, the press truck went by, and the race director, Jock Semple, saw that a woman was in his race wearing numbers. And he lost his temper. He jumped off this press truck, ran after me screaming, grabbed me, cursed at me, said, give me those numbers and get out of my race. And I was just so scared. But my boyfriend was, as well as my coach Arnie and other members of our team, were running with me. And my boyfriend, who happened to be an ex-All-American football player and a great big bruiser himself, threw a cross-body block into the official and sent him out of the race instead, and I went on to finish. And the amazing thing is this whole thing happened in front of the press truck. So the pictures of the incident were flashed around the world and became one of the great watershed moments and one of the great photographs in sports history, because it showed what the sense of discrimination was against women in sport. But it had a happy ending, obviously. Even though it was a terribly negative incident, it was something that positively changed my life.
Yeah. And yet it took another 20 years, and most people are very surprised when we say that it was 1984 when women were first allowed to run the marathon at the Olympics. Another 20 years, really, before you achieved what, obviously, that date in Boston started.
Well, you know, I'm glad you brought that up, Annette, because that's what my book, Marathon Woman, is all about. It is not just about this Boston Marathon incident. It's about something bad, terrifying, very negative happening to me the moment that official tackled me, okay? It's what you do with the negative that counts in your life. I could have walked off the course and been very bitter or never run again. But instead, I realized if I didn't finish that race, everybody would believe women couldn't run, shouldn't run, it was inappropriate, and people like Jock Semple would always win. And so I would have finished that race on my hands and knees if I had to. But the point is as I ran, and as you know as an athlete, there are the endorphins, the thinking, you work out your problems. And I came up with the reasoning that I was only in that race because I'd had an opportunity. I was lucky. Other women would be there if they had an opportunity. And it was my obligation, really, to create those opportunities. I did. I organized a global circuit of races for women, got sponsorship. Eventually 400 races, 1 million women, 27 countries, lobbied those different athletic federations, and got the women's marathon in the Olympic Games. And you said it took 20 years from 67, to 84. In terms of how the International Olympic Committee moves, that is the speed of lightning. They are a glacial organization, and you have to realize also that in that time frame, we jumped and changed people's thinking in 30 years from 3,000 years. We overcame all those myths and misconceptions about women's capability, and we did it like that, really, with that photograph and with getting the women's marathon in the Olympic Games. It was an absolute triumph for women.
And yet here we are in 2008, so many women still don't really realise the beauty and the benefit and the freedom, strength that you get from running. If you could just give them one tip on how to get into running, what would it be?
I would say, yeah, get a good pair of walking shoes or running shoes or whatever, but basically get together with your friends or go out by yourself, but go out the door and make 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes a priority for yourself. It helps you lose weight, it helps you solve your problems, it helps you feel good about yourself, gives you a sense of empowerment and self-esteem that you really can't get in any other way.
So at 61, the new 40.
Oh, thank you.
What does the future hold for you?
Writing more books. Marathon Woman has been a great relief to me because it's a book I always wanted to write. It's my third book, and it was fun doing it. People are loving it. I'm getting great feedback, not just from women, but from men too, because there's a lot of revisionist thinking out there, which is that all men were tough and terrible to women. That's not true. The officials were hard on us, but the other men really applauded and helped me with my running. And so I'm getting great feedback from them, and I think I'm going to write more books. I'm certainly going to do a lot more speaking. I do a lot of television work as well. But I want to reach out particularly to a younger generation that maybe doesn't have strong personal role models. Thinking of doing some children's books and showing them, get out there and move. Because if you have that same sense of self-esteem and empowerment that I had when my dad said, go out, honey, and run a mile a day when I was 12 years old, it set me up for life. And I would love other parents to do that, and I would love kids to do it themselves.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Annette.